Welcome to ROQ Shop Talk. Our show talks best practices, fun anecdotes, and the latest cutting-edge technology in our field to kick your screen printing gears into hyperdrive. Today's episode features Raquel Weed of C.H. on the importance and best practices of shipping logistics. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be right back.
I want to welcome everybody back to ROQ Shop Talk. Today we are discussing the importance and best practices of shipping and logistics. We are joined by Raquel Weed of C.H. Hi, Raquel. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We are fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. It's raining, but outside of that, we're great.
Other than that, there's nothing really happening this week nationally or anything to really talk about at all. So
yeah, I can't think of anything.
Yeah.
Pretty
slow.
Yeah. I'm ROQ US's president, Ross Hunter. I'm also joined here by our creative producer, Mr. Merrill Caps, and our purchasing manager and logistics extraordinaire, Andy Johnson.
AKA.
Hello. AKA.
Shockwave.
I like that. That's great. It's a good nickname. Andy coined that as nickname when he walked in to do this podcast today. So I think we might call him Shockwave.
I like that.
I think we should. The episode.
His face says that he really coined that himself. I think someone said, here's a new name for you.
Did someone give you that nickname at some point in time?
No.
Okay, you really just did make it up when you walked in here.
Wow.
That's me. That works.
I like the Shockwave, not just Shockwave.
Nice.
Yeah. Definitive.
I like that. So I wanted to start off a couple updates, remind everyone the Printing United digital experience is still going on. Our digital booth is live. They've got new topics every single day. We are still giving away a 3-night trip to Denver, Colorado, 2 days of training with printing extraordinaire, Mr. Danny Gruninger, over at Denver Print House. So
super awesome. That's going on until the 12th of November. So you still have plenty of time to register for that. And all the details on our website, roq.us.
And it's just on the homepage. Click the button that says Print United, and it'll tell you how to go through a bunch of craziness to log in and click plus signs.
Yeah, there's these pink or magenta plus signs, and that will enter you to this contest.
Absolutely. So go check out the booth and hit up our team if you have any questions. And we're going to start off today by introducing Raquel at CH. I'll kind of hand the floor over to her, just what she does with CH Robinson, what CH Robinson is for those people out there that did not come to the conclusion when I said shipping and logistics earlier in the intro that it is a shipping and logistics company. So Raquel, welcome again. And let's give our listeners here an idea of what CH Robinson is about and who you are.
All right, can do. Raquel Weed. So I've been working with Robinson, I think I'm at 8 years. I don't know. I feel like anybody who's in this industry, it just ages you. So it is what it is. But no, I actually manage the customer team for the Portland office. I started my career in logistics in the Colorado Springs office, and over time decided that there was some opportunity. So moved over to Portland and have been managing this team now for 4 years. And so I oversee some of, the account teams that manage some of our largest accounts with Robinson. So can't share who those are.
And you help with us.
And I help with Rob.
We are CH Robinson customers.
Most entertaining conversations I feel like I get to have when I just get random phone calls.
I love it. That's screen printing. And like logistics, once you get into screen printing, you never leave. So we totally understand that sentiment.
So, I'm trying to think back to especially when we started our relationship together between Robinson and ROQ. Robinson, we're a global organization. We're one of the largest 3PL, so third-party logistics companies, definitely in North America, but we are a global organization. So we help companies all over the world in regards to their supply chains. And we're very well known. We've been around for over 100 years, but the way we identify definitely is we are a tech company. We are here to help support other companies, manage and work on continuous improvement for their supply chains. And then we also add in our people, which we have thousands, over like 12,000 employees at any given time across the globe, here to support our customers, from the small mom and pop customers that maybe only need a few shipments, a week or a month, whatever it may be, all the way to the big mammoth of those organizations that, you drive, down the road and you're like, and there's a Robinson, customer, there's a Robinson customer. It's just one of those things that I'll be the first to say that I didn't go to school for this. So this has all been I fell into this, I guess you could say. And I never really thought about really what it meant for a supply chain. Like, I would go to the grocery store and I wouldn't even think twice about well, how did this even get here? Why is the cost of eggs so expensive? To be honest, I didn't really, give a crap. Probably. But at the same time, once you start learning and you start understanding the implications of supply chain and what it means to just your day-to-day consumer, it's a very interesting thing to be a part of, especially, I would say, even in today's world. Definitely during COVID, let me tell you, all the toilet paper that needs to go somewhere.
Right, and the paper towels that don't exist because of just-in-time production that we do here in the U.S., which is probably a big, part of what you guys have to deal with, both from fulfillment standpoint with the 3PLs and trucking and getting everything out to people. Kind of funny you said that, because my perfect segue to my first question was just, given COVID happening right now, obviously the economy is I want to say a little all over the place, and we'll see what happens, in the coming weeks with the election coming up. How has that affected shipping and third-party logistics and getting shipments out to places, especially too with the holiday season coming up? I didn't even throw that in there, right? So we got holidays, we got COVID, we have the economic climate. What does that look like right now?
I almost feel like I have to break it down a little bit, because it is complex. Let's take the holidays out, because the holidays, no matter what, is always going to be.
We'll come back to that. Yeah.
Time. Yeah, exactly. So with COVID happening, when we think about what happened in March, I think the stock market dropped immediately. I think it was March 20th. And everyone started furloughing all of their employees. No one knew what to do. People started working from home. Being a tech organization, I will say that we've always had people in the office. And then this actually pushed us very quickly to be okay, well, can we work remote? What does that look like? And we did make our whole workforce, I think within a week, we had over 90% of our workforce, not working in the office. Wow, and it proved that we could do it. Globally, right? Because there was different pockets within the world that, we had our teams in China that obviously had to go home way earlier than that. We're talking even into the later part of last year. And then when we started to see what happened, here in the United States, everyone started moving home. People were getting furloughed. It's public information. There was a lot of furloughs everywhere. Now you're talking about how that impacts not only companies like ours, but talk about, truck drivers and carriers and, those LTL carriers that are out there. Everyone didn't know what was going to happen. So what ended up happening is people, do some drastic things, and some companies do. And, you see the smaller companies barely making ends meet, and you see the bigger companies definitely going, we need to supply all of this extra freight. We got toilet paper, we have paper towels, we have food, everyone's stocking up, everyone's going crazy. So we kind of have this weird imbalance of what's going on within the economy just based off of how people are reacting. You have big customers that, when you think about food and beverage, right? You're thinking about oh, well, on my day-to-day basis, I go to Pete's, I go to Starbucks, I go all over the place. People's routines started changing. So that means that, okay, well, I'm not going to Starbucks anymore. So does that mean that, if I'm not going to Starbucks or to Pete's or to wherever for my morning coffee, are we shipping that much now, to those locations? Are we shipping as much Clorox? Now I'm having to go, and Costco's booming because of the fact that, we have to fulfill all of, and by us, just everybody, we all have to fulfill all of the needs of all the daily consumers out there. So there's this really weird imbalance going on where some organizations are I can't make ends meet. We just can't pay the bills. Other organizations are we need to supply and make sure that we're meeting the demand of all of the customers out there. But what ended up happening is everyone started getting furloughed. There was the anticipation that, okay, we're starting to see the economy come back up. Things are reopening. All of a sudden, the jobs aren't coming back. And, we're talking about, people could go on unemployment and make, honestly, a lot more money by sitting around and, I don't say doing nothing, but deciding not to take their job. And so, people kept pushing it off. So July happened and August kind of happened, and people were not, I guess you could say people were bringing people back, but they weren't coming back as quickly as people had hoped. People realized the economy was coming back. So we had this rubber band effect of all right, we got a furlough. Oh, crap, we need to go the other direction. And it's only taken until recently that people have gotten a lot of their jobs back, but we're still having hiring problems. So they might have brought all their people back, but now the economy's booming. We don't have enough people to meet the demand. We were coming off of years of, potentially not even, this older generation who drove trucks, were retiring. You have a lot of people going, work-life balance. I don't really know if I even want to drive across the country because that's a very hard job. Absolutely. So you're starting to see just different pockets of different things going on where it's, people retiring, people who are more susceptible. Hey, I'm not willing to drive here anymore. Every company is making their own rules on around COVID and how they want to deal with it and what's best for their employees. And that may or may not align with somebody else and their views. It's getting really complex. And then you add in the fact that we have so much more freight now than ever. We don't have the market is just going crazy. When we look back year over year, it's so unprecedented. We don't even know what to say. We're going to this point where we're going to our customers going, all of our business, right? We have such data, great data and analytics because we've been measuring this for years. And there's some cyclical nature to our business. And so that allows us to go to our customers and give them pricing for, a year and give them a commitment from a carrier perspective, go find a carrier who can really handle that business. And yet we're sitting in a situation where our business we really don't know where the market's going to go.
Right.
And it sucks. It really does. It sucks for everybody because no one wants to have that conversation at all. Right. But there's too much contractual freight right now falling to the spot market. And the spot market is, the transactional day-to-day, hey, can I get a truck from here to here? And that is costing people so much more money because it can't be planned for. Versus the business that you can plan for, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going from New York to Texas. That can be planned for. That can get, you can start to manage your expenses. You can start managing your budget to that. But the problem is that too many carriers either, were unable to now take their commitments over time. A lot of them are even saying they're seeing so many mini bids right now that they don't even know what to do with it. There's just so much business out there.
Dang. So, it's so super high demand then for freight. And not enough people to do it is essentially one of the problems that we're having. One of
the problems. And then also think about this now the shift of e-commerce. I know that I started buying everything on Amazon, when I was okay, well, I guess I'm not going outside. So, everyone's changing their habits on how they go shopping, how they are a consumer, what it looks like for them. And so when you think about that, that shifts people's buying patterns, that shifts how people ship. And, if you're not, let's just say you are, a food company, maybe you're not now shipping as much to Walmart or Target, whoever, you're shipping through or, selling through, and now you're shipping direct to home. Direct to consumer. So that even just changes, your supply chain and how you even budget and plan for your supply chain. And if you don't have a product that people really need, that is essential, then that took a turn for a lot of people as well. So people had to pivot their businesses. There's so many factors here that play into this that I think, it's not as easy as there's a truck and I have freight and let's marry those two together and it's going to be perfect. Right. There's so much more to this, and supply chain and trucking and everything. it wasn't that, I know it's simple, but I thought like, hey, you need to pick up something from point A to point B, but there's just so many external factors right now that it is causing huge delays in people's supply chain, just-in-time stuff. I mean, you have to change how you ship, what you do. I mean, I think we've talked about this with ROQ specifically. You know, you have to be able to plan for it, and you have to be able to have lead time and know that service, you know, if you want a certain price, then it's like service, quality, and price all the time. It's this triangle of trying to find the middle all the time. Mm-hmm. But if you really want the lowest cost, well, guess what? Your service and your quality is probably going to not be as great.
Well, it's kind of funny that, you know, you talk about delays and stuff, yet consumer habits have all shifted to the Amazon world, which is, sure, you know, today or tomorrow or maybe 3 days. I mean, I know we get shipments pretty much every day.
Or 3 weeks after they tell you 2 days.
I just ordered my friend a Megaboom speaker, and which I love, and I ordered it at 9 a.m. yesterday, and it arrived by 3 o'clock.
Yeah, that's what I'm. So now that's the expectation, right? And it was less expensive, I'm sure, too, than you going out to the store. There you go, going out to the store and buying it. We only had one thing during all this. We bought a pull-up bar for our garage gym, and that took 5.5 months to get. Granted, it was gym equipment, and that pretty much also ran out nationwide. So
that ran out nationwide for sure. Yeah. Because I was trying to get bumper plates and other things. I was like, "Why is this so hard? Since when do people want to work out?" Like,
yeah,
go back to your 2019 self, please.
Right. It's interesting. This is a very small tangent about what you brought up, but I'm curious, pre-COVID, how much did you recognize, or did you recognize how much of a difference within personnel of just people's habits changing? You're saying like people getting older in the industry, how much of the youth factor is in this industry, and what, if anything, is happening to encourage that? Because it's so critical.
It is critical. You know, I would say the shift has been coming. It's been a conversation for a really long time, just in regards to driver shortage and drivers over time, you know, retiring. And let's be honest, it's a hard job. And there's much easier jobs out there that pay very well. So like the whole idea is like, how do you attract more talent into these truck drivers essentially? And that's when it goes into, like, I'm sure you've heard like Elon Musk is, you know, has the driverless trucks, you know, and all that. And then you have competitors coming out with that. So, you know, there's regulation that goes along with that. So it's not as easy to be like, okay, tomorrow we're gonna have a driverless truck, you know, out there. We have done it. It's been out there. There has been success with some of that, but again, it's not things that are going to happen overnight. And it also, then you also have to think about like, well, how's the world going to feel about these massive semis just going down the road and you're driving past them, like with no one in it?
We're already freaked out, even when there are people behind the wheels. So
trust me, I know. I'm like, okay, he definitely cut me off today. Like, like whoever it may be, for sure. But I mean, it's been a conversation, right? So what people are doing is there's all these, even right now, you know, about attracting talent. There's carriers are trying to figure out how to get people in the door. Some of it is just like huge bonuses for just like signing up and for a contract of 1 to 3 years or whatever it may be. I mean, you got to pay these people a good amount of money. And then there's also like, if you give a referral, there's a bonus for that person, depending on how long, per mile driven. I mean, they're doing a lot of different things to try to create incentives to get drivers into this industry period. And then add the COVID time and how that we still need more drivers, and especially the LTL carriers right now. I mean, they're getting so much freight, because think about like because of the buying demands, it has changed how we ship. So if maybe we would send a full truckload to, you know, our end consumer, now they might not be ordering that way because more of the business is going through e-commerce. So now they only take a few pallets of freight. Well, if they only take a few pallets of freight, that changes the scope for all of these businesses. And so when we think about like LTL carriers, for example, you're talking about like the UPS, FedEx, ABF, you know, all of them. There's a lot of them who've put in embargoes pretty much to deter you from sending freight their way. Like to the point where it's just like, I'm going to start adding hundreds of dollars of charges just so that you won't ship with me. And you don't even know when it happens. And it could be a bunch of different things. It could be staffing issues that they're having, and they'll just turn it on the next day. And then, you know, and then customers and, like whether it's Robinson or somebody else, right? Who's ever helping service your business. I mean, those decisions are happening so quickly that we might not know that it needs to ship that way. And then we have to pivot. And the customer has to pivot, and you have to pivot so quickly. And 1 week you could be getting really crummy service with one carrier and you're like, I never want to use them again. But then it could be another carrier the next week based off of, how their hub and spoke models, they continue to change. And it could be COVID related, like they could have a COVID breakout. It could be a bunch of different things, or they could be a staffing issue. I mean, we don't know half the time, but if all of a sudden there's too much freight going into one location, they will make it very difficult for you to ship with them. And if you do, it's not guaranteed. And realistically, it'll be late. I mean, the joke right now is anticipate a late pickup and anticipate a late delivery. And if you just keep your hopes low, you will be good.
Yeah, it's so hard as someone shipping though, right? Because I know we run into this because in our business model, we're shipping something to, an end client, and we're having to show up kind of simultaneously and install it, put it together, train on it, et cetera, et cetera. So when you talk about it's going to ship late, it's going to show up late, that domino effect that's happening in people's businesses right now, because, the person waiting on it is someone that's doing just-in-time production too. So it's like, it just...
And they're trying to coordinate a forklift at the same time to pull the freight off.
Definitely that happens.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. That's where it goes back to, okay, well, let's think about our options here. Robinson, we're mode neutral as an organization. So at the end of the day, we can ship it LTL, truckload, air, whatever makes the most sense. The thing is, most people aren't prepared to be like, I'm going to ship that pallet. It's going to be expensive, but yes, it will get there on time. So right. And people didn't budget for those decisions. Realistically, they budgeted let's just use easy numbers. I have 100 pallets that are going to ship LTL. It's going to cost me around X this year, with inflation and everything else and transportation when they budgeted. Now I have to ship all those 100 pallets, each one singly in a dedicated truck so that I have a higher likelihood of getting it on time. No one was making those decisions. No one knew. Mm-hmm. And we all joke, what's really good for business is sometimes a hurricane, because realistically, it's always the extremes, right? No one could anticipate. When this hit, it was at first you're is this even really real? How is this going to affect everyone's businesses? No one knew that it was going to close down businesses. It was going to change the way we taught our children. It was going to change how we went about our day-to-day lives, how we even showed up as family members, siblings, friends, peers. I mean, it has completely changed, our life as we know it. And, when we think about how that affects just, people and businesses, no one could have anticipated. We know what happens when a hurricane happens. We can kind of make some guesstimates. I mean, no one really knows, but you know, but then you add something like this and the duration of how long it has lasted. And
the unknown of how long it's going to continue. I mean, we're all just sitting in limbo. I think people are getting a little bit more, used to it, and they've adjusted their businesses and their business models somewhat to accommodate. But I think we also haven't adjusted enough, because, there's this hope that there's this light at the end of the tunnel. And it's do you want to make these major changes and then everything goes back to normal? Or what will be the new normal, I guess.
Well, but I'd even argue that, the other aspect to a lot of this is that people are getting used to this. And it's almost like they're forgetting that COVID exists, because it's just become okay, I wear a mask when I go to the grocery store, I do these things. And sometimes now it's that reoccurring conversation of remember, we still have COVID. And it's not just COVID anymore, right? It's how COVID has now affected the rest of the nation and everything else, from shipping habits to consumer habits to just day-to-day life and how we go about our day-to-day lives. So it's not just it's COVID, it's the implications of what happened. And I think that's where, we would all love to say, and, that things are going to go back to normal and then rates are going to go back down. But I don't know if that's going to happen. To be honest, no one can predict that. The best thing I think people can do right now is, figure out what kind of service are you looking for? Because to be honest, like the fact that if you do have a forklift, right, at the end, and especially with like construction or even like for your screen printing machines, I mean, when there's crews on site, it adds so much money to the whole process of this. So it's more than just transportation. So it's like, what does the transportation truly cost? Should it cost the fact that it's a dedicated truckload? Or should we be shipping this a completely different way? And I'm not just talking about you guys, but like even companies who are shipping LTL that don't want to pay for a dedicated truck. Like it depends on what your goals are. If you make a promise to your customer that you're going to show up, well, that's the promise you made, and the promise costs money in this world. And I think that's where companies decide, like, well, really, how do we still want to show up taking this stuff all away?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to stop us for 1 second. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we will dive further into shipping and logistics. We'll be right back.
Ease yourself into automation with the ROQ US Fold, Pack, and Label Solution Suite. Named 2020's Product of the Year by Printing United Alliance. The versatility of the modular system empowers you to build your premier packaging, folding, and labeling solution one step at a time. For these and other expert solutions to help you press onward, please visit roq.us, that's ROQ.us, or call 187-ROCKET now, that's 877-674-8669.
I want to welcome everybody back to Rock Shop Talk, your one-stop rock shop where we talk all things screen printing. Today, though, we are talking about shipping and logistics with C.H. Robinson, and we are joined by Raquel Weed of C.H. Robinson, live from Arizona, but she's just on vacation. She actually lives in the Pacific Northwest. And we're also here with our creative producer, Mr. Merrill Caps.
Hello.
And our purchasing and logistics extraordinaire, Mr. Andy Johnson.
The Shockwave.
The Shockwave.
I have to continue it now. It's just too fun.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that actually is going to go on his email signature from here on.
The official title on the site. The Shockwave.
Oh, I like
just
that.
No explanation either.
And our listeners out there, you know, if you ever are emailing or communicating back and forth with Andy, make sure to put that in your email or telephone call. I talked to the Shockwave.
It's another t-shirt.
Yeah. On the break, we were talking about making some cool shirts.
Hashtag shipped face.
Ship face. Since we're talking about shipping today.
Yeah.
So all our screen printers out there, whoever wants to do some printing for us so we can make some cool shirts for C.H. Robinson, please write to hello@roq.us. Again, that's hello@roq.us.
ROQ.
We'll give you a screen printing job.
That's exciting.
Yeah. It'll be fun.
I dig it.
Absolutely.
Exclusive to this show.
Yeah.
Like you only know about it if you listen to this episode.
I like that.
That's
I
cool.
want one.
Oh, we'll all wear
the Shockwave wants one.
We'll get a picture.
I want one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have a question.
Okay.
Because, you know, it's, what is it, November, and we've got the holidays coming up.
Oh, it's Movember. And I've got to grow the stash. I didn't have the stash for the episode. I had to shave for Halloween. No, I mean, normally I have like enough of a beard where I could cut the rest of it off and rock the Movember, which I can only do for like a day because every time I look at myself in the mirror, I just laugh because it's not a good, it's not an appealing look on me. But
I think very few can pull it off well.
I think you have to be like a firefighter or a cop. That always seems to work on people in uniform.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, but it doesn't. You either have the face for it or you don't. And
that's wise.
Yeah.
That's wise.
My dad one year grew out a Fu Manchu that like went all the way down to here. And he braided it.
Oh, that's committed.
Very Texas of him.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we digress. Shipping is cool.
Logistics.
Let's go. Yeah, the holidays. What should what's different? What should people listen for, watch out for, avoid, etc.?
I'm going to cut her off and say she's about to say plan. Was I right?
Yeah, get your shit together. No.
Did you just plan explain?
Yeah, no, honestly, you know, the holidays are an interesting time. Depending on, and it's not just holidays, right? Like everyone's industry, depending on what you're shipping, you have different seasonality to your business. most people think about the holidays and they go, okay, we have the holiday season push, usually when it comes to like some consumer goods. Most of it does go back to planning. So yes, you have to plan. Because there's other factors here that are going to play into the marketplace, especially when we think about like the Pacific Northwest. I mean, you have Christmas trees. Now, we're still anticipating whether or not this is going to be a huge Christmas tree season. Obviously, due to COVID, are people going and going out and buying them? What does that even look like? But Christmas
was it a big pumpkin season? Do you guys ship pumpkins? No, that's not a thing. So Christmas tree delivery.
I don't oversee customers that ship pumpkins, but I am sure we have shipped pumpkins for sure. And we ship pretty much there's a list of a few things that we don't ship, but aside from that, we ship everything. So,
we'll get into the things that they don't ship soon. That'll be a great topic.
Like, let me get a list out.
Yes.
Honestly, like when it comes to the holidays in a non-2020 year, it does come back down to a lot of these companies. Usually they kind of know what's going to happen with like based off inventories, their previous buying patterns. And I mean, there's big companies that they start shipping their Christmas stuff or their holiday season stuff in like May to get ready. And so again, it all depends, because for different companies in different industries, Christmas either might be Christmas or the holiday season really might start in August. So when you think about a holiday season being like August through December, I mean, that's half the year. I mean, take away Christmas for a second in the holiday season, think about going back to school and having to plan for that big push. I mean, and then you have the produce season out there, and that's a different push. That's in the middle of the summer. So when you think about like what to do to prepare, a lot of it does come back to planning. Much more lead time is going to get you what you want, at least get you closer to the rates you want. If you have any repeat business or like there's any consistency, that's something that you should bring to your partner, your supply chain partner, your transportation partner, and be like, I have these lanes. This is the consistency. Can we find a carrier to match up with that so that we can, one, get better service, and then two, probably keep our rates a little bit more, together, instead of riding the spot market and never knowing like, all right, today's 4,000, yesterday was 2,500. You can't budget for that. And that blows people's, budgets completely out. And so talk about a time that everyone's budgets are blown anyways. Right now people are realizing I think there was a lot of people that were hoping, and by people, I just mean companies, right? That were hoping that, well, I'm going to keep pushing back on my suppliers or my transportation partners and tell them that, no, we're not going to take an increase. No, we've been a partner, and like all of those things. But then what ends up happening is, the business has to be mutually beneficial. And realistically, we're all in business to make money to some extent, right? So, there's only so much we can do here with being able to just create trucks, and if a truck costs $4,000, it costs $4,000. And so, it goes back to service. If you want to ship it for cheap, yeah, you could probably ship it LTL, but it's probably not going to get there on time. And you got to be okay with that. But if you want to pay the extra money to make sure that you are meeting the demand of your customers and the expectations of your customers, because ultimately it is your relationship and your reputation, you got to pay more for that, especially in this time. But I will say, from a holiday perspective, if you've done your planning, you know what's coming, just like any other business, I would suggest just make sure that you're ahead of the game. It's better to ship ahead of time and then go find storage somewhere, or, if you're not going to be penalized for shipping early, then I would even say that's probably one of the best things you can do, right? Just so that the best way I can put this is that I went to the car dealership recently and they were working on my vehicle, and they were just like, it's going to be 2 hours until your car is going to be ready. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll get my laptop out. In 30 minutes, I came back and they were just like, okay, your car's done. And I was like, and I looked at her and I was just like, you did that on purpose? And she was like, yes. I was like, and I just laughed, because I was like, you know what, that's exactly it. I'd rather exceed your expectations all day long than, barely meet your expectations or even take too long that now you're pissed, and you're a pissed customer and you're not coming back to ROQ or whatever it may be. Right. So it was funny that, just in that that example alone, it made me think about what I do on a day-to-day basis and the team I manage. And sometimes we got to be better at, setting accurate expectations. We all want to say yes. We all want to make our customers happy and be like, yes, we're going to get it there. It's going to look like this. But we've had to have some real tough conversations this year. And it's not just holiday, it's just all year round about really setting expectations. And I would just say, set realistic expectations, or even maybe say that it's not going to get there for an extra week or whatever.
Pad those expectations slightly. Yeah.
For the holiday season. I will say with ROQ, it is kind of difficult, like with the fact that you have to get a forklift, you have to make sure you have people. I mean, a lot of times when your customers are receiving, their machine, they probably have never received one before. And if they have, maybe they know what they're doing. But if that came to my house, I'd be like, can someone help me? I don't know what.
Right.
So I can only imagine, like, you're trying to make sure not only are you meeting your customers' expectations, but you're also then, creating this like warm, fuzzy feeling of like, okay, when I get this, it's going to be easy. The shipping got there on time. I didn't have to think twice. Someone showed up to my house or to, my business, and they took care of it. It's definitely more complicated than I'm going to go ship something from point A to point B to Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I wish it was that easy.
Yeah.
It would.
No kidding.
It would make life substantially simpler, but there are just so many things involved in all this. And I know even for us, from the supply chain standpoint, our OEM, as everyone listening and is in Portugal. And there's a whole nother barrier there because, they're manufacturing, it's getting put in a container. It's got to get from their facility to, a dock. It's got to go from the dock onto a boat.
Customs.
Yeah.
All that.
Get on the boat, go over the ocean, go through customs, then get on a truck, and then either get to our facility in Florida to go out or go direct to our consumer. And right now, I mean, they've had a lot of issues with COVID in Portugal. I mean, it's raising, the cases are raising substantially. They've had issues in the factory with COVID, and, luckily they're doing a great job at isolating those issues. And so we're not seeing entire factories shut down, but it causes that extra layer where, we're not padding that in. So even if you're padding the shipping part in, now you got to pad in the supply piece of it. And it's, it gets kind of crazy to even think about because there's so many moving parts.
Right. Well, that kind of brings us to the next point about technologies and software and different platforms that could reduce those unknowns and streamline things. So Raquel, can you speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are a tech company, so I'm going to give you that spiel.
Yeah, please.
No, but I will say for a really long time, a lot of companies, right, not just Robinson, just like other 3PLs, it really was, at least back in the day, you had your trucks on the board and then you had your loads on the board and you're like coordinating, trying to figure things out. And, fast forward to now, right, we've been investing, and I will say we're on this journey of investing $1 billion over 5 years just in tech. So, I mean, it's definitely public knowledge. It's something that we've invested in, and we invested in it for our customers because we realized our customers needed something. And we have always prided ourselves on having tech. And, some customers were ready for it, and then some customers weren't, because they were just like, I've been doing it in my Excel spreadsheets for a very long time. We're going to continue to do it this way. But, when we think about the best in class organizations and what they're doing to set themselves apart, our customers, what they're planning on doing, tech is a huge piece of that. They need to have a system that allows them to be successful, allows them to track their freight, allows them to give them visibility to, costs and to inventory and to, making sure that they understand what's really going on, being able to put in freight into the system. You want to be able to have full visibility. And it's only into the last few years that companies have even had the ability to have that. So like Robinson, we've been investing, like I said, $1 billion. We've hired a lot of people to make sure that we can make sure that our customers are getting what they want. And then on top of it, we're coming up with innovative solutions around what would be the equivalent of going on kayak for freight, And so we're coming out with all these things that our customers are getting the privilege of experiencing. And sometimes, to be honest, a customer will come to us and go, I have this problem. This is what I need. And we go, okay, well, let's figure it out. Because if you're a customer who needs this, most likely there's probably some other customers who need this. So let's see how we can support not only you, but we can support, our 120,000 customers that we do have.
For sure.
So
Yeah, that's definitely something we embrace here.
Yeah, and I mean, I know, from our end, we're still working on a API connector between your platform and our ERP system. So you guys put a lot of work and thought into how do we integrate ourselves into what what your consumers are already using, to be able to better, visibility and tracking and integration. So you're not doing as much manual work.
well, I was gonna say there's the manual work, but then it's also just like good data, right? Like when you start to have really good data, you can make good decisions around your business and really focus on accurate continuous improvement. And a lot of times companies didn't focus on the data. And what ended up happening is like, I think I shipped this much. I think that my cost per pound is this, and we can start to do some really cool things when we start to better understand what really is occurring in your business. Like some companies believe that, hey, I give you a week lead time. And I'm like, actually, just kidding. You only give us, 24 hours. 24 hours is going to give you a very different rate than a week. Or I have no consistency in my business. And then you come to realize that there actually is a lot of consistency because we can see the shipping patterns that are actually occurring. But because that person is feeling it themselves and they're receiving it from maybe the sales team, they're not noticing the consistency that's actually going on.
Absolutely.
I mean, sometimes people like hold their freight. Like, hey, can you hold it just for 2 days? Because when you do, we can actually save you X amount of dollars. Like,
wow.
Bunch of cool things to do. It's just a matter of like good data. And like with ROQ, it's a matter of if we can get connected, right? Then, or any customers, you can get connected. Realistically, we can start looking for continuous improvement, which will ultimately just help you and your bottom line when it comes to making sure you're servicing your customers and you're doing it at a great price.
Awesome. So, for all of our listeners out there who hopefully are listening to this and like C.H. Robinson's the bomb. I don't know anything about logistics, but I know I need it. I should call these people. What kind of questions, I guess I'll preface this. When I had my other company in screen printing and was a screen printer, when we started doing larger volume stuff, I started to need some LTL services. I'd say nothing bigger than that. It was funny because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm not a logistics person. I didn't have that background. And, the first thing everyone does is go to the Goog and type in, I need a truck. And I probably needed one like the next day because, right, it was just something I needed.
You needed it overnighted.
Yeah.
That's another shipping job.
I used to actually, funny sidebar, I used to use Ubers for local deliveries way back when Uber started. They'd show up and I'd put a box in their car and type in the address. Oh, it saves so much money compared to courier services. It was insane.
I love how you use the word, I used to do this.
Oh, no, I did it recently with a cocktail. I had Merrill make me a cocktail at his house. And then I sent an Uber driver to his house to Uber the cocktail to my house.
It was a hot toddy. It was like medically necessary. So.
Yeah. That's great.
Although I'm very curious that this was like worth an Uber for this hot toddy, apparently.
It was the best hot toddy I've ever had in my life, bar none, hands down. And I didn't feel well and I felt amazing the next morning. Totally fixed me. So it was good. It was worth it.
Okay, well, Merrill, I'll give you my address.
Yeah, I'll send you the recipe for sure. Done.
So what do we tell people though that are having this problem for the first time? So they're out there, they're looking for a freight company, a 3PL company. What kind of questions should they be asking these companies like before making a decision? Obviously there's a lot out there. What are the important things that people should be thinking about when they're getting in the freight world for the first time?
Free world. Yeah. I would probably run the other direction. Be like, different job or hobby.
Just don't ship anything? No.
Not at all. There's when you're entering into any relationship, right? With any relationship, business, especially business oriented, understanding who the company is, like, do they have all the features and things that you're looking for? Think of it as an interview process. What are the things that you need? Like when I think about modes and services, do you need parcel? Do you need LTL? Do you need truckload? And if you don't know, ask. I would say like the biggest thing is you want to be invested in somebody who's going to invest in you. And, they're going to take the time to educate you because this is a whole different world. It really is. I mean, to think that you may know a lot about, it's not just getting like one truck from point A to point B, you truly understanding like the economy, the ebbs and flows of freight, like what are the impacts and what are the things that are going on in the world that are going to affect your business. It's someone who's willing to educate you and teach you and coach you and not just be like, oh, you want a truck? Okay, I'm going to move that from here to here in this one mode. But someone who's going to come to you and go, you know what? There's 3 different ways we can ship this. And I'd actually suggest that we do it this way for these 5 reasons based off of what I know about your business. It's a different relationship. And that's why I do think you almost have to interview the companies you're going with, because one, you better get some real good, like fuzzy feelings on the inside for sure in any relationship, but you want it to be mutually beneficial. You want to make sure that both teams, whether it's Robinson or, another company out there and yours, is on the same page with what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to achieve quality? Are you trying to achieve, cost savings? Making sure that you're having a conversation. It's not just a transactional relationship. Now, those do exist, but for newcomers into the industry, I would argue, do some real research about what do you need? What do they need? And if you're unsure, find the people that are going to support you and teach you along the way, because that's the knowledge. Like that, to be honest, is, I would say, almost worth all of it. Maybe it's going to be a little bit more expensive for you to go with, the more Cadillac service, I guess you could say, but you're going to get the quality, you're going to get the knowledge, you're going to get the support, you're going to learn as you go, so that fast forward 3, 5, 10 years, you have learned what you need to do to make the best decision. And whether that's or somebody else, that's going to pay you dividends in regards to like how you look at your business going into the future.
Absolutely. And there is some leverage too by going through a third-party logistics. You guys, like you said, have been around 100 years. You work with, I'm pretty sure, every LTL service on the at least in this country, tons of dedicated services as well. And because of the relationship that you've had with a lot of those companies for, tens of years now, it kind of gives you a little bit of extra, I don't want to call it leverage, but leverage to help your clients succeed, right? Because it's not me, the first time shipper on the face of the planet, going direct to ABF, let's say, as example of like an LTL carrier, and saying, hey, I need this. They're probably going to give me the A to B, and that's kind of it. Where you guys really come in, as a 3PL service and do get to understand the business. It's not just us calling you and saying, hey, we need to ship this. It's you saying, what are we shipping? Where is it going? And I know when we started our relationship, it was a 3-month process, lots of in-person meetings. This was before COVID. I always have to throw that out there, but yeah, we met in person. You brought in a team of people, looked at the business. We looked at, what we were doing in the past, where we wanted to go. And, I guess I'm just echoing what you're saying to everyone listening, that, I'm coming into this as someone completely naive to logistics at all. And I felt comfortable because I was learning. And if I wasn't learning, I don't think I could have made a decent decision. I just would have, picked something and said that, but because of the learning aspect of it, it really helped a lot. So research is key when it comes to getting started in logistics, for sure.
Well, and you're right. Like, some people don't have the time, right, to do the research, I guess you could say, because I need a truck tomorrow and I'm not going to send it. So, but that, it begs the question also, when we think about the relationships we have with our customers, some are very strategic, and we are their partner, and we are their outsourced partner. Then we have relationships that are much more transactional. Like, I need a truck tomorrow, get it for me. But, I think that's when it goes back to what kind of relationship do you want to have? Especially starting early on, I know cost, especially being a small, if you're starting early on, you probably are a small organization, you're probably looking for the best rate. But there is something to be said about having a partner who's going to educate and teach you so that you can have the best rates long-term, and who are more also invested in you and helping you make the right decisions for your business so that it doesn't, have implications on the back end. It does take a little bit longer, but you have to decide as a customer, what kind of relationship are you looking for? Because you can have a transactional one or you can have a strategic one, but obviously I don't want to say every broker, but like every transportation partner would love a strategic partnership with a customer. But you as the customer have to decide, what are you looking for? And then from there, then you do the vetting process of like, well, what can they provide me? Is it, does it fit for both of our businesses? Because I don't usually turn away business, but at the same time, if it's not a good fit, I'll be the first to say, like, let's not do it. Let's not ruin this relationship. I will tell you well, and I'll tell you if this is not in our wheelhouse. And so that I'm not wasting your time. And to be honest, usually that benefits both of us, right?
For sure.
Because I don't want to fail you at the end of the day. I want this to be a great partnership, a great relationship. And if I can lead you in the right direction, then I'm going to lead you in the right direction. So
that's awesome. Well, with that, we are going to go to our next commercial break. And when we come back, we will wrap up with logistics and shipping. We'll be right back.
The Rock Shop Talk podcast is your home for all things digital and screen printing. Co-hosts Ross Hunter and Merrill Capps interview industry professionals and newcomers alike to bring you the best and most helpful unfiltered insights and stories to kick your business into hyperdrive. To subscribe and even request to be on the show, please visit rock.us/rockshoptalk.
I want to welcome everybody back to Rock Shop Talk, your one-stop rock shop where we talk all things screen printing. Today we are focused on logistics and shipping, and we are joined either way. No.
Either way works.
I don't think it works.
Join with. I think it could work.
Weird.
It's weird, but I think it
is weird.
Yeah.
Either way, you're starting. So I just start over.
I wasn't going to start over. I was just going to keep
going
with this. So we're joined here
digital
with
virtually joined. This is Raquel.
This is Raquel Weed of C.H. Robinson, and she is joining us today in our episode about shipping and logistics. Also here with our creative producer, Mr. Merrill Capps, and our purchasing manager and logistics extraordinaire, Mr. Andrew Johnson, aka Andy. See, I already shifted gears. I didn't use the nickname.
Shifted gears. Was that a shipping joke?
Oh
my gosh.
You're good at these puns, man.
Come on.
We need to get one. We have to have a shipping joke with Over the Top. Did you ever watch Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Truck driver.
Classic.
He had. You've never seen this, Raquel? Okay, so you have to watch Over the Top. It's an 80s movie with Sylvester Stallone. He's a professional arm wrestler. Okay. He's a truck driver. And in his truck, he rigged an entire weight system, like a home gym. And so he would drive, and on his arm that he used to arm wrestle, he would just like lift weights the entire time he's driving. Now, mind you, it's a Sylvester Stallone movie, so he doesn't talk. So it's about an hour and a half of him lifting weights.
It's appropriately titled.
Yes, grunting and arm wrestling. But it has something to do with trucking.
You're not really selling me on this. In other words, I'm not desperate enough during COVID. Thank you.
I thought you were going to tie it into the Rocky conversation.
I thought you were.
You could tie it into Rocky right now.
Well, that's not my story.
That's
I didn't ask for consent. Do we have consent to tell that story?
But there's not a story.
It's her nickname. So Raquel's nickname's Rocky.
Yeah, that's the end of it.
And we're Rocky, and then we're talking about Sylvester Stallone. So tie it all together. Really?
Don't.
Have you ran up the stairs?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Have you ran up the stairs?
Yeah, if I need to.
No, the Rocky stairs.
Oh, no, I haven't. But you know what? We could still use the one-shot rock with the Rocky thing.
So that's what the nickname's going to, One-Shot Rock.
One-Shot Rock. That's me.
I like it. And all of our shipments, what is that called? That's called a straight shot, right? That's a shipping term.
Are you talking about straight truck?
Yeah, straight shot. That's like a dedicated truck, right?
Sure.
No. Am I being dumb? That's not like shipping slang?
Like there's a straight truck.
Okay. I thought it was called a straight shot. There's a hot shot though.
Yeah.
Hot shot. What is a hot shot?
The guy who jumps out of an airplane.
No, it's a hot shot's like when you
fires.
Like get some random truck to show up like in 10 minutes and they go.
A small trailer that's attached potentially to like someone's big truck. It's
okay. You're thinking of a getaway car.
But there's hot firefighters, and I didn't know not people that jump out of planes or helicopters or whatever. So I don't know. One Shot ROQ here to stay. Let me tell you.
All right, I like it.
I dig it.
One Shot ROQ. All right, so getting back to
what are we doing here?
We're having fun. Isn't that what a podcast is for? Like it's got to be like informational, but then we're supposed to have fun. I listen to all these great. Dax Shepard has a great podcast.
Oh, I know. Armchair expert.
So good.
I just listened to it yesterday.
Yeah,
it's fantastic, and it's like real world issues. We're talking about real world issues, but then he has a lot of fun. He talks about like eating sandwiches, and there's lively banter that happens between him and the co-host. I mean,
we never do that here.
We do sometimes.
The one with Matthew McConaughey. I saw that last night, and it's great.
Nice.
You have to watch that one.
I like Matthew McConaughey. We have the Calm app, on the phone. So we'll do like meditation before going to bed or whatever. And there's an actual meditation in the Calm app. It's Matthew McConaughey reading a bedtime story. And so you get to fall asleep to Mr. McConaughey reading you a story.
All right.
I had a hard time doing it. I had to turn it off. I love Matthew McConaughey, but there was something kind of creepy to me falling asleep to him reading me a bedtime story. I don't know.
Okay. Safe space.
Like,
Well, the voice is so familiar. I could just think of Lincoln commercials.
Right.
That's like I was like laying there trying to sleep, and all I could think about is the Lincoln commercials. Just didn't work out too well. So, question: One Shot ROQ. What are essential insurances that people need to think about having in place when going into logistics? Or is that something that like logistics companies pretty much provide for people, or is it best to have both?
Good question. It really depends on your business. I know that's kind of like a crappy answer, to be honest, but the reason I say it depends on your business is because like when you get into like very high value freight, I'd even tell you, what's really high value? Like almonds, like things that you don't think about, like nuts. When you get into high value freight, sometimes like clothing and other things, it's good for you to have your own insurance policy just in case in the future, something happens. The other thing to consider is, many organizations like the freight companies, let's just say it's a truck. Most trucks are insured up to $100,000. And if you have anything over that, you won't be covered for it. Now, you can always ask your freight broker or anybody else, your transportation partner, hey, can you find me a truck that can cover up to X amount? But the one thing that I like to just point out to people is there's a very high likelihood that is going to limit the pool of carriers that you can pull from. So it's going to ultimately increase your price because not every carrier is going to be covered that much. But at a minimum, I'd say the standard is about $100,000. If your product is more than that, then that's when you want to start thinking about, well, does it make financial sense for me to go get separate insurance? Or does it make more sense for me to, it's a one-off situation, doesn't happen very often. I'm going to go and just have my carrier, handle it. And maybe go find me a truck that's worth $125,000 or whatever. Now, that said, when it comes to LTL carriers, every LTL carrier is different. So some are going to insure up to like $5 a pound. Some are going to be $25 a pound. You can always get shippers insurance. And so you can always buy up, I guess you could say. But those are the things that you have to have conversations with in regards to your logistics partner, and you got to be upfront about the value because sometimes customers, they don't share that information and they just make the assumption that it's covered. Well, that also might be the decision of like, okay, well, are we going to use higher tiered LTL carriers or that can cover up to $25 a pound? Or are we going to use the dollar per pound LTL carriers because it's actually cheaper? Like those are the things you do have to think about. But when it comes to getting a truck that can cover, making sure you have the value of your shipment and you let your partner know, like, and I say your logistics partner know this is how much the value is, then that is going to probably help you at least get the ball rolling in a conversation around, okay, are we covered? Are we not covered? Is there a better way for us to do this long-term? Like for the stuff that you ship, like at the end of the day, how much does it average? Like, what's the value of it? Is it over 100?
I'd say on average about 100, a little bit over.
Your stuff is around 100 grand. that's where I think it's really important to have a conversation with your logistics, partner around, does it make sense for me to look into other things like from a corporate perspective, like making sure my stuff is covered, or if it's underneath the 100,000 or around there, maybe you look for a carrier that's 110, 115, $120,000. More carriers are holding, higher values of insurance, but the standard is 100 when it comes to a truck. So if you're not willing also to take the risk, because some customers are like, I'm willing to take the risk. If something bad happens, I know I'll get paid out the 100. Maybe it's worth me not having to pay for a whole different policy. And so those are the things you as an owner or even just a business owner have to weigh out, like, does it make sense based off of, the risk you're willing to tolerate and then also the coverage that you're going to get.
Awesome. So another thing we've thrown around a lot, LTL versus dedicated truck. Some people may not know what exactly that means. And then like what the typical price difference is, and we could just go by like 5X or 10X or whatever. But can you kind of explain what the difference between an LTL and a dedicated truck is, and then what the price differences are with those?
So kind of. So truckload. So when you see a big semi on the road, you're probably looking at a dedicated truck, right? Like the things that you try to avoid when you're driving down the road, probably. Now LTL stands for less than truckload. So that's when you're shipping, maybe not 26 pallets, but you're shipping 2 pallets. You're essentially buying a spot a little bit on a truck. And so your freight is going to be married up with other customers' freight going in probably very similar direction. Now, the LTL world is very hub and spoke model. So, if it starts in Portland and it needs to go to New York, it might stop in Colorado, then stop in Chicago, then stop in New York, maybe Pennsylvania, then up to New York. Now, that's how their model works. A dedicated truck is going to be like one pick, one drop. It's going to pick up in Portland and it's going to deliver in New York. And so that would probably simplistically, that is what I would say. Now, when it comes to pricing, that's a very tough conversation because things that are shipping, it depends on density. So like, let me back up here for a second. So when you're getting a dedicated truck, realistically, no one cares what's on the dedicated truck. You're buying the truck. That's what it is. You're buying X amount of space. You don't get a portion of the truck. You get the whole truck. Now, when you're shipping LTL, you're pretty much buying some space, and also they classify what you're actually shipping. So based off that classification, it has a different rate structure. So if it's lighter, it might cost more. If it's heavier, it might cost less. If it's longer or the pallets are bigger, or if you're shipping over 6 pallets, it's going to be a volume shipment. It's like, there's so many different aspects, and usually it goes back to the classification of the freight that's being moved and how much space and density it takes up on the truck. And that's why it almost makes it more complicated to be like, well, it's cheaper to go, LTL. Well, if it's 1 pallet for sure, then, shipping from Portland and New York. But if you're shipping like 10, 12 pallets, we might give you the recommendation, depending on the market and depending on the rate that you're receiving from an LTL carrier, like, hey, for an extra like $500, you can just set a dedicated truck and you're going to have better service, better quality, less opportunity for damage and claims because you're not going in the hub and spoke model now. And then you get it quicker. So
awesome. That's a good synopsis. So a little bit more expensive because it's not making a bunch of stops essentially, but it could be very little bit more expensive just depending on what it is that you're shipping.
What you're shipping, where you're going. I mean, if it's going to California, it might cost the same as a dedicated truck. There's times that I'll be like, okay, you're shipping 4 pallets. Let's put it on a dedicated truck for an extra, like for the same cost. Like, it's just, and that's why it's so hard to say, because honestly, like the market and going into different marketplaces are just so different and the costs associated are so different. And then you have the aspects of what you're shipping, right, that play into that as well.
So this is why going back to why the partnership's so important, right? Because you need someone like you or people on your team saying, hey, just FYI, this and this are the same price. This is going to be a lot better option for you in that scenario.
I had a sort of an example of that last week. I shipped a bunch of plastic. It was 14 pallets of plastic. And my mind went straight to dedicated truck. And, I asked Mac, our contact there, what that would cost. And I said, hey, what if we put it on 2 LTL trucks? And the cost was a little bit cheaper in that instance. So it just depends, like Raquel's saying, depends on what's being loaded, the availability, what your time frame is, how quickly do you need it from one place to the other, so.
Oh,
yeah.
Especially it's interesting, right? Like due to COVID and everything going on and how different marketplaces are reacting, like different cities and just like, the ebb and flow of the supply and demand into different locations. I mean, we've made the suggestion like, hey, let's take this from Portland to Chicago and then to Chicago to New York, and it will cost $1,000 less than going from Portland to New York.
Dang.
Like, and I know that sounds crazy, like, and that's not, to be honest, it's not like I'm sitting there going, let's do this every single time, right? But, sometimes you have to get innovative because sometimes you can't get coverage and you can't get a carrier to go from here to there because they don't want to. And so, okay, well, we got to get a little creative. And you're right. That's when it comes back to relationship. Okay, we got to get it there. How are we going to achieve this? And let's get innovative on what our options are from a cost and then also a service perspective.
Awesome.
Freight sets the rate.
Freight sets the rate.
Sorry.
Out of my office, I would have like all these really great memes pumping out all day long.
He sends them all day long. We get them through Teams. He's a meme factory.
I'm going to add you to my teams, and then I would like some of these while we're at it.
Oh, do it. Yeah, heck yeah. I'm in.
Well, for those of, before we wrap up here, for those people that don't know how to find you, again, C.H. Robinson, but I don't know if you want to give out a website or some social or anything like that to our listeners if they want to check you guys out and possibly contact you for your services.
Definitely chrobinson.com. We will get back to you if it's new. I mean, obviously, I'm sure my contact information will be on here. If you want to be directed in a certain direction, I'm always happy to help. So, but I will tell you, chrobinson.com is where it's at. We got great tech that you'll have access to on there too. And it's for free, which is awesome. It is really cool.
You guys have offices in pretty much every major city and...
We do. So that's kind of, if you're in a big metropolitan city, realistically, we have an office very close to you. And if you're not, probably definitely within the region. I mean, we have over 100 offices in the US alone. So
wow,
awesome.
We definitely continue to grow, and it's been a really cool aspect. I'll be honest, like working at Robinson has been a lot of fun, especially the last few years, because we are growing so fast and we're doing so many great things when it comes to like tech. Our CEO has put out like, these are the things we're going to achieve, and like we're running, and it has been so much fun to innovate and to see us change. And, change is uncomfortable for a lot, but like, I'm all about it. It is such a great time to be alive, and it's such a great time to be part of Robinson.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Well, I want to thank Raquel again, AKA Shot ROQ, for joining us today in 20 Rock Studios on a Rock podcast. To all you out there listening, have an awesome Friday, a fantastic weekend, and rock on.
Press onward.
Oh, and press onward.
Tremendous thanks to Raquel Weed and Andy Johnson for participating today. As always, thank you for spending time with us this week. Tune in at your convenience wherever you listen to your podcast by searching Rock Shop Talk. On our next show, we'll feature the topic of tax considerations in the printing industry. If you'd like to request to be on the show, please visit rock.us/rockshoptalk. If you found today's episode helpful, the greatest accolade we could ever ask for is for you to recommend it to a friend who you think may find it helpful as well. Please like, share, and subscribe on social media. And until next time, rockers, press onward.